Victoria Price, and you're listening to Hide and Seek, a podcast about hiding and seeking and some sharing about hiding and seeking. So, thanks for listening. This week's podcast is called We Are Family, or it's really hard to say that without saying. This week's podcast is called We Are Family because, who doesn't love that song by Sister Sledge? We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. And that is what this podcast is about. And honestly, how often have we all heard those lyrics and felt that uplift of all being connected as one? And yet, if we're honest, how often do we not actually act that way toward one another? Act the way we feel when we hear that song? How many except fors or asterisks do we have in the way we think about who we love or who we call family? Now, everybody knows, of course, that family means more than blood relations. And many of us have created stronger bonds of family with people to whom we are not related or married or even with whom we've ever lived. We all understand that family means connected in love, however that happens, with whomever that happens. My family, my parents are long gone. I rarely see my cousins or nephews or even my brother. There's whole sort of strains of my family, threads of my family I've never even met. And yet, when my brother came through town last week and we saw each other for less than an hour, in that hour, I know that we both felt the way we always feel when we see each other, that we are family. My brother and I had one fight in our life, probably in part because we're 22 years apart and we didn't grow up together, but that fight lasted maximum 3 weeks. After which, we went to breakfast, agreed that fighting with someone you love is the most ridiculous waste of time in the world, and we've never fought again. And yet, we're very different. And I know the ways in which I view family, which are so different from my brother's, have often disappointed him. I don't like family holidays, I don't celebrate Christmas or even my own birthday, and I know he misses having me as a part of his family celebrations and connections sometimes, even though he has a big close family of his own. But still, we will never fight about it. We will never disagree with one another about it. And we always, always, always endeavor to see one another in our highest light and hold each other in love. And that is family. So why am I talking about family this week? Well, because it's my dad's 110th birthday week. And a trip to St. Louis 10 years ago to celebrate his 100th birthday, which someone very cleverly dubbed the Vincentennial, changed my life. It changed my understanding of joy and love and connection. So just 2 months before the Vincentennial, as I've now written about 1 billion times, I looked in the mirror and had this wake-up call that changed my life. And I realized that I'd been doing everything, quote-unquote, right, and I was miserable. And that going on that way for another 40 years would be untenable. But how was I going to change my life? I had no clue. Well, the Vincentennial gave me that clue, because I showed up there in St. Louis with the intention of conveying my father's love and joy and love of life to everyone I met. And to do that, I had to find joy. I had to embody joy. I had to love life for those 5 days. And in those 5 days, I felt like everything I'd been missing, joy, love, purpose, passion, connection, came back. I remembered them. I embodied them. I've spent the last 10 years translating the feeling I had that weekend into a new way of living. And that's included becoming a nomad, closing my businesses, selling off everything I've owned, changing how I earn my living not once but twice, writing a blog and 2 books, and traveling the world, and a lot more. It's entailed finding a heart-centered practice of living. And now, 10 years later, when people ask me why I've devoted so much time and energy to carrying forward my father's legacy, I have an answer for them. It's because my Father is my shortcut, my heart-centered practice, my mnemonic device, if you will, to joy and love and purpose and passion and connection. Because when I get up on stage and talk about how my dad lived his life, when I give an interview with someone about my dad, when I talk to fans about my dad, and I talk about how he lived his life, I feel his joy. I feel how much I loved him and he loved me, and how he loved life and taught me how to love life. When I lead tours with the wonderful people I've met through the Vincent Price world, I find myself on these great adventures with like-hearted people. Now, sure, they want to visit torture chambers and cemeteries and cabinets of curiosities and taxidermy shops, and I don't really like freaky, scary things. But what I do love is their curiosity and their joy and their love of life and how much fun we have together. And that's why they've become my family. But I know there are people who wonder, why does a woman closing in on 60 who doesn't like horror movies or scary things spend so much time talking about her father? Is she that insecure about herself that she always has to talk about him? Is it because he's famous? No, it's not because he's famous. But the other part, it's close. Because actually, if I'm honest, I trust my dad's access to love and joy and connection probably a little more than I trust my own. So when I invoke my dad, I feel the things that I want to feel, and I feel them in connection to others. And what have I learned from that? Well, that we don't have to have a million things in common to find joy in connecting with one another. A few years ago, I was driving through a small town, I think it was in southern Arkansas, and I thought to myself, I probably don't have one thing in common with any of these people, and if I got out of the car with my short cropped hair and all my tattoos, they would look at me like I was a freak. And my next thought was, then why do I feel so comfortable here? And my answer was this: because I'm not supposed to fit in here. And that was the moment I realized that I've never done well or been entirely comfortable with the people with whom I'm supposed to fit in. Why? Because the reasons for fitting in never made sense to me. Why should I automatically have anything in common with another person who dates the same kind of people I date, or who likes the same kinds of foods I like, or who went to the same kinds of schools I went to, or grew up in the same neighborhoods? Are those compelling reasons for connection? Well, they sure haven't been for me. Now I've landed in a small, mostly middle-class town in the mountains of western North Carolina. And if you look at all my new friends here, their demographics, where and how they grew up, what their parents did, who they date or what they eat, or where they went to school or how they worship, and compare them and all of that to all those same statistics in me, we'd have precious little in common. But we actually have a ton in common. Because what we have in common are the things that matter most: joy and connection, curiosity, kindness, community, passion, adventure. So that is another form of family. Now, I've learned that you're not allowed to share music on podcasts unless you're the artist. So I'm going to read you some of the lyrics from We Are Family instead of playing them, which of course would be, so much better. But this is We Are Family by Sister Sledge. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. And then this is the verse I want to share. Living life is fun, and we've just begun to get our share of this world's delights. High, high hopes we have for the future, and our goals in sight. No, we don't get depressed. And this is the part I want you to hear.
No, we don't get depressed. Here's what we call our golden rule. Have faith in you and the things you do. You won't go wrong. Oh no, this is our family jewel. We are family.
right, I wasn't supposed to do that, but honestly, did you want to hear me keep reading? No. They say, here's what we call our golden rule. Have faith in you and the things you do, and you won't go wrong. Oh, no. This is our family jewel. And this should be all of our family jewel. That our golden rule is to find the joy in the things that we do and feel in connection to one another. Have faith in you and the things you do. And if I've learned anything from my dad and my brother and my friends who have become family, it's that when we show up in love, no matter how different we are from one another, we really can't go wrong. Sound too easy? Well, I have to tell you, that's what I thought. You know, it took me a lot longer than I thought it would to learn how to just show up to what I love and how I love to live and how I love others in ways that don't seem to look. Oh, see, they're going to sing. They're still singing at me. Don't you love when the phone decides that it has a better idea than you do? Anyway, it took me a long time to show up to just being okay with the fact that how I lived and how I loved didn't look like other people. And it still doesn't. But you know where that got me? It got me back to joy and back to connection and back to the feeling that finally I was doing something right. And what that right wasn't trying to be right or good or perfect, but just showing up to life in love and joy and gratitude. And that, my friends, is not pie in the sky. So if you haven't found a way to be you, and if you haven't found others who accept you as you, I promise you, you will. But only if every day, no matter how loud the voices are in your head, you give yourself permission to be you. And that is where I had a leg up, because that dad, whose 110th birthday so many people around the world are celebrating this week, he knew how to do that. And he taught his little girl that no matter what her mother or her stepmother or the world said, showing up to who you are in your own heart and practicing that and being that every day is the only way to live, and an incredible way to live and love as if we really are all family. So people, this week, sing it loud and sing it proud. We are family, starting with you being family to yourself. Get up, everybody, and sing. Thank you for listening to Hide and Seek, a podcast about hiding and seeking to be family, seeking to be in our hearts, and sharing that with one another. Get up, everybody, and sing.